So I'm out here in a little place called Keithville, a place that if I had my way, it'd be its own little incorporated city, and I'd run for mayor. So, like anyone who's going from home a lot, when I come home, I always kind of look around, analyze, see what's going on with my home and what I can do to make it better. So I wanted to share this video, kind of to encourage everyone to do that. So when I came here, as you know, I came here under some circumstances that has put me in contact with a lot of medical providers, something I'm very interested in, given my gerontology and healthcare background. So I've had a chance to talk with the victim advocate or patient advocate of Willis Knight, as well as some of the shift and emergency room nurses. So we were able to have an honest, and candid discussion and see some improvements in healthcare delivery, which I think is pretty neat. So with that, I just want to encourage people, when you have family members in the hospital, don't be afraid to ask questions. And when you see things you think could be better, you're probably right, they probably could. Just make sure you address it in the appropriate way. Because when patients are there, a lot of times, they're not there to try to advocate for themselves. They're there because they're ill. So they need the family members to do that. Then on another note, of course, this storm has been historic. I've seen some news reports that dated back to being only this close to something that occurred in like 1903, which is obviously a long time ago. That's back when like my great grandfather was 3 years old. So to an extent, you can kind of see why the city, the parish, wasn't necessarily prepared for the cleanup. But of course, I wasn't satisfied with that. So I was able to have a good discussion with Commissioner Everson of the Kettle Parish Commission. And I've also been in touch with Commissioner Lazarus as well, who actually covers the district that Keithville falls into. So those two, they agree. And I think it'd be interesting to see where it go from here. Because this time we were caught off guard. Now we know. So I think it'd be interesting to see where the city and parish go from here to prepare in the event that this happened again, which it probably will, given global warming and all the change we've seen. But on that note, I would definitely encourage each and every one of you to contact your city councilman, your parish commissioner, and let them know how you feel about the response to this winter storm. I mean, there was a lot of roads that are still impassable after 4 or 5 days. Things had got to a point where even emergency teams cannot respond to 911 calls, or they did, but in a slower than usual way. And it all boiled down to infrastructure. Our roads were not being cleaned when things lightened up. So as it continued to snow, continued to refreeze, things only got worse. So there definitely should be a system put in place, and people to really analyze the best way forward, whether it's buying new equipment for the road crews, or whether it's using equipment that's already there but reallocating it, or whatever they need to do, but something should be done. And last but not least, there's a lot of history here in Caddo Parish, as well as Keithville. And I like to try to highlight that history. We have, Louisiana had the first African-American governor in the country. We were one of the first to have the first two lieutenant governors that were African-American, all in Reconstruction, the 1960s and 70s after the Civil War. And at one time, when we had our one and only black governor, PBS Pinchback, over half the Louisiana Congress was African-American, as well as 7 of about 35 or 36 senators were African-American. So there were a lot of great strides made. So there's a lot of history there, a lot of burial sites and things that are uniquely African-American in nature, but it's all part of the American story. So with that, in 2005, there was a man who was retired going out finding historical sites, and he found one right here in Keithville, Louisiana, that has many generations of families that still live here today. And he found it in 2005, and then he actually registered it in 2018 with Find a Grave, which is how I found him, due to my own, family ancestry research. So we did correspond. I was supposed to meet with him actually when I came here, but ironically enough, he just passed away last month, so I missed him by about 24 days. But we were in touch in 2019. I started helping by adding to that database in 2020 and 21 for that grave in particular, as well as others. But it's up to us to really try to keep our legacies and our heritage. So I did reach out to Commissioner Epperson as well as Commissioner Lazarus, again, on that subject to see who owns that land so that we can figure out if it's public land, can the parish do something to preserve it? But if it is private land, who own it, maybe we can engage them one-on-one. But there's about, I'm sure there's more, but there's 11 graves we can identify. There's probably more. And it's all on land that my great-great-grandfather and my great-great-great-grandmother owned back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. But it tells a unique story of the CME church, the Baptist church, a mulatto family, and I think it should be preserved. So I was very happy to hear their response. Commissioner Lazarus is looking into who owned it. Commissioner Epperson said he'd be happy to try to get some attention on it. And one of the ways we're trying to push that is by education, of course. So I did put together a small little write-up that I was happy to see the Shreveport Sun ran this week, just to kind of get it out there, because it's something that's uniquely Keithville. There's a lot of those families like the Maidens, the Williamses, the Salones, just so many of them that they can trace their history back from children, 6 and 7 generations here as some of the first African-American landowners, first African-American business owners, and that legacy should be preserved. So it's my hope that we be able to clean that place off, maybe gate it, put some informational placards up. Of course, I'd be happy to help with that, but really make that a place that tells a story, because there's a story to be told. Right there in that grave, you have the people that descended from those that are interred there started the Galilee Baptist Church, which still stands and is operational, the Macedonia Church, Friendship CME, just all of these churches that still exist today. These are the people and their children that actually helped lay some of those cornerstones. So it's a great legacy, and I think one worthy of taking care of. So again, I know I post a lot of things, and I'm always careful about what I post and then what I say about it, but I feel this one is pretty legit and okay to talk about. But I'm not one of those guys who just post and talk about stuff. I like to be about it. And I just wanted to use those examples to encourage others that when you see things, say things. Because sometimes that's all it takes, is bringing it to someone's attention or presenting the right idea or a plan to get some momentum. Back in about a decade ago, 2010-11, we had a similar situation with the drainage system here. And I was able to talk with Commissioner Smith at that time, who was Commissioner Lazarus's predecessor, as well as Commissioner Epperson, who was also still a commissioner but of a different district. And they were able to help do great things. I wrote a letter to both of them that they were able to read before the commission. They did their leadership magic, and it resulted in a $300,000 ordinance that was passed to redo this a whole block of this precinct. And there was a news article put out there about it. It was really nice. They came and interviewed some of the residents. But all of that can be traced back to one letter, to 2 commissioners, and then them just getting that ball rolling. So our leaders, sometimes they're just overwhelmed. They might not see things, but it's up to you and me, each citizen, to bring it up, present some, ideas and ways ahead, and then actually hold them to it. So anyway, just wanted to share that. Beautiful day finally out here. Snow starting to melt a little bit. Well, still a lot of it back there, but the roads are clearing up. And I'm just enjoying my last couple of days here before I head back out. But remember, you're a taxpaying citizen, your voice counts, so use it.